It's not January. It's December still. What did I just saw?
Well, gents, how about cats?
Cats! Oh, thanks. I saw cats.
Cats, 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 cats. They're crazy cats. They're naughty. You can't find more diversity in a single personality. Yeah, cats. Can't beat them. Please don't you eat them. They're not handling a fur brush full of nails. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah, we know the joke. Cats. I decided to give myself a little bit of 4 movies in a row that kinda was between the line of what the frick to this is horrible to wow. 4 weeks in a row. This one I did this to myself because I'm just as curious as a cat. Oh my god, what did I just saw, guys? Oh man. Since everybody's talking about it, now it's my turn, since I just saw it before Christmas, to be honest. So anyway, Cats the Musical. What is the backstory I can tell about this? I remember that it was the 90s when I heard that it was big on Broadway. My brother saw it, and since he's a little bit more fascinated with cats than me, I was so curious, really curious to know about this play, and since I was stuck in my hometown, there was no way that I had the chance to watch it. And I never did. I only knew that there was some kind of appeal / non-appeal to the musical until 2 years ago. I finally got the chance to watch it. And I do remember that I just came out kind of between confused and saying that, it was okay. I thought it was an okay musical. I can see why people either love it or hate it. Then, what do we got this time? The director, this guy, excuse me my MTV because I tend to forget names. Tom Hooper, the same guy who got us the big screen lame-a-ton named Les Miserables. He decided to go with the cinematic production of Cats. And boy, the trailers didn't help. Because, yep, the first thing you're gonna notice from the trailers is that, my god, those costumes / CGI / designs of the I don't know if I want to say people or cats in this one. It's uncanny valley horrifying. And I was like, oh jeez. The first thing that came into my mind is that this movie doesn't do any favors to the furry community. Because usually the furry community are technically people or kind of like a little bit of our personality that we do attracted to artistic anthropomorphic animals. I gotta admit that I do have kind of like a share of attraction to anthropomorphic animals or furry animals on cartoons. Only on cartoons, I'll tell you. But I mean, when you show in media cute cartoons like this, or this, or this, or this, hell, even Catwoman in the Batman animated series got that chance, and you can tell that you can tell why there's an appeal to that. But when you show things like this, you're not doing any favors, and actually it kind of shows why people who are not into it, they see them as creeps, or that there's something wrong with them. And so a movie like that doesn't do any favors. That's the first thought that it came out into my mind. And so thanks, cats. Thanks for giving us nightmare fuels. But despite that, I really heard that that this movie bombed, and it's been really being negatively viewed even more than Rise of Skywalker. I'm sorry, apparently someone saw the trailer and he passed out. But because like I said, I'm as curious as a cat, and I decided to watch it. And you know what? I'm in the club. This movie is really bad. It's really bad, but unlike Black Christmas, and unlike, well, a little bit of Rise of Skywalker, hell, even unlike the Playmobil movie, this is probably one of the what the frick movies you have ever seen. And this could be the perfect movie to watch if you can tolerate the what the freakery that this movie has, and grab some booze and drink. I don't recommend you guys, but it's kind of hard to invite you to this insane of a movie. So for the people who didn't know what Cats is about, you might be telling me, okay, what's the story about? Well, here's the first strike that this movie couldn't do, is that, first of all, this movie Cats doesn't technically has a story. It is barely from both the musical and this play and this movie. I mean, the biggest plot that you can imagine is that a group of cats from an alley they welcome the newcomer who was abandoned by her owner, the cat named Elizabeth Victoria. She played by Francesca Hayward. I mean, and basically she's just meeting other cats, and all of them are technically doing this kind of talent show that they do once per year. And the winner, basically, it turns into what they call the Jellicle Cat. What's the Jellicle Cat? The hell that you want to know about? It'll let you know. Well, the play doesn't tell you, but basically the movie is technically quote unquote subtle enough to let you know that probably is kind of like an analogy to reincarnation, and you're gonna go to the higher plane, you become God. No, not God. You're gonna be reincarnated. I exaggerated, but basically the whole musical is just seeing this couple of cats, and they just sing what they do, until they decided who was gonna be the Jellicle Cat. And this movie basically is the exact same, but in this case they use A-list actors or well-known actors in order to make the play and all this stuff. And unfortunately, also another thing that kind of harms the movie is that it kind of felt that it wanted to hammer in a story in the case that they want to add a villain. Because in the play they do mention this cat who is basically kind of like a very let's say that he's naughty and makes trouble and all this stuff. A cat named what was it, McCavity. There's a song on that on the play, but it doesn't if that cat doesn't appear, that doesn't appear in the play. So apparently they thought that it was necessary for the movie to give it a plot. So they have Idris Elba playing the role of this cat, which apparently is the cat from The Devil, in which he has kind of like magical poof power. He teleports like Nightcrawler, and he is kidnapping all the other cats in order to, you know, remove them from the competition so he can be the only one and become the Jellicoe cat. And is as poorly executed as you can imagine. It is really, really forced. I mean, he just kind of teleports them into a ship where there's another cat which who is gonna threaten them to drown them and walk them plank and all this stuff. So that, and then of course it gets away from the whole story, that cinematic story, which you can tell that this movie is adapted from a play that it doesn't necessarily need it to be kind of like a play, you know, a movie, because at least to the credit to Les Miserables, as there are some things that I don't like, but at least Les Miserables have a story, an Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 in order to follow in cinematographic terms. But Cats is basically artsy ballet with a musical. It's a little bit too artsy to be on a movie. I wouldn't mind that, even though I think they shouldn't have forced itself a story. I mean, I'm not saying that it can be done. There are ways to approach it and do it, but in this case, they're not. They are not. And now we go with the elephant in the room. The biggest thing that this movie that horrified a lot of people is the effects, the makeup effects, and it's really bad. I mean, what they're trying to do, they just wanted to kind of imitate the the play, but the fur around the cats are so skin tight that again it forms kind of like a little bit of an uncanny valley. I mean, it's not, and yeah, again, it's not as sexy as Felicia from Darkstalkers. Actually, that kind of comes a little bit creepy in my opinion. But also, again, the movie doesn't help, especially when almost every second everyone begin to act, kind of exactly, like kind of like real cats do, going like this and rubbing through, each other, putting their noses there, so having their tails, high up and all this stuff. So it's kind of like a few steps away from becoming kind of like its glorified furry orgy, which again doesn't do any favor to the furry community, because at least for the anthropomorphic animals in cartoons that I have shown you, you can give them the benefit of the doubt that at least they have some human characteristics. They act normal. They don't act too sexy, except when in certain moments. There is still some kind of humanity that you can find it appealing, and in a way that can be reciprocated. In this case, it's kind of pushing it. And unfortunately, this is what many people in the main media think what furries are, in which, unfortunately, they're not like that. They're not exactly like that. They're not sexual deviants like many people think they are, but they're not. They're only people with different tastes, and not every time they just go there. I mean, some of them are actually really good artists. And once again, and I'm gonna repeat this a lot of times, Cats doesn't do that any favors. Especially considering how the actors especially act. One in particular especially. What was the name of this? Oh, Rebel Wilson. Rebel Wilson, that after the 10 minutes that the movie starts, we just get her scene. She's this big fat cat who she even spread eagles during almost kind of like her own segment. But that's not the biggest insanity that this movie has. The biggest insanity that she has on her segment is followed with little mice people, also with the human faces, and even more smaller cockroach artists with human faces. And those cockroaches, they just line dance and they get eaten by Rebel Wilson. And I remember I was sleeping during the whole movie, but when that movie I was like, wow. I mean, I don't recommend you to watch this movie, but if you want to have your brain exploded, wait until this movie comes out, even as a clip for YouTube, and get ready for that, because this is probably the only moment that is technically worth it if you want to have a kind of like your best Halloween high for the next year. Oh man. Other actors, of course, include the magician cat, played by Laurie Davidson. We also have Judi Dench playing, as the one that how can I say, that chooses who's the Jellicle cat. Oh man, even Gandalf, Ian McKellen appears here. Oh man, I cannot say, people. This movie is technically disgusting. Keeping on a little bit with the cinematography, you get, the shots of there's trash, the trash around it, and honestly, I was about to puke again. And the costumes again didn't help. Also, it doesn't help that the first shot that this movie has is there's a human woman technically, abandoning the main cat, and considering that you gave us the image of a normal sized human, and then knowing that the cats are technically the proportions of humans, it didn't help. It helps on the uncanny valley that this movie has. So, no. So what do you think about, so let's go with the, but now the big question. Despite anything, Cats is basically a musical. So how are the songs? Let me tell you a thing. I know the appeal of some of the songs of Cats. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them are so-so. Kind of forgettable in my opinion. But the movie kind of lost that spark of how it feels for a musical. Translating a musical to the big screen is no easy task, because in this case, I think the biggest factor that many musicals has is that they always want to show, a big name actor, singing and having kind of like a good voice. But if you go to theaters or Broadway plays like I did, you're gonna notice that Broadway actors, they do have to make their biggest effort to increase their voice, having a good tone. So their voice vocals are technically have practice and are used to to bring out a big high pitch, low pitches, and keeping in harmony and an appeal to their singing. But unfortunately, on movies, not much of these actors are singers. Remember in Les Miserables? It shows that Russell Crowe cannot sing. He can't sing. And this one kind of half of the actors doesn't feel like they can't sing. At least they can sing for a tongue-in-cheek joke, but they're not done, they're not capable to be a musical, no matter how much they try. They do have kind of like their ballet. They do know ballet, some of them, but some others they don't. They don't know. I love ballet dancing. I love watching them. This one, it didn't help out, I'll say. Probably I'll say that the only good singing part that I can think about this movie is the one the infamous song sung by Jennifer Hudson, who she plays the cat. What was it? Grisabella. She sings the memory song from the Cats play, because yeah, they wanted to imitate the Anne Hathaway singing moment, but you can tell that it was kind of forced in a way, and honestly, the Anne Hathaway musical part from Les Miserables, it didn't capture me too much. So that's the thing I could say about it. So I wish I could tell you a little bit more, but I've been doing hour-long videos for this whole month, and I don't want to do that again. So let me again, wrap it up a little bit, in which saying that Cats is terrible. It's a terrible movie. It's basically, I would only recommend you if you're curious enough, but I don't think that you're gonna get some kind of merit, I'll say. Funny enough that I heard that this movie was supposed to be animated years ago. And you know what? I think an animated movie could have been more beneficial, because not everything has to be live action. Speaking of also live action, with their shitty special effects, I did read an article saying that they're gonna remove the movie in order to fix the special effects like a DLC, because I heard that there's a lot of mistakes with their feet. Number one, when I'm watching a movie, I usually try to watch people's faces. So why will we be watching the feet? And second of all, it's too late, guys. It's too late. You're not gonna PL Travers Mary Pop like she wanted to do with Mary Poppins. No, you can't do that. At least the benefit of Sonic is that they managed to fix Sonic before the movie came out. But but one small thing I have to say is that there is the final scene. I'm not gonna exactly reveal exactly what happens during the whole thing, but I do want to say that the imagery of the final scene, for some reason, it reminded me of that episode of American Dad where Cloud flies on a big balloon. But for some reason, that's what I had in my mind. Oh man, what an insane movie! But again, I'm not happy that Cats doesn't do any favors to the furry community. I know they do deserve a kind of like a better representation than just this. Nah, that's all I have to say. And with that said, meow.
Cats, 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 yeah, cats, 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 you just can't beat those cats.
Sorry, them cats get a little Broadway every once in a while.